And welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Good Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Kate.
And I'm your co-host, Nate, and today we're talking about female-fronted bands.
Yeah. Every one of these women walked into a room that was not built for them and left it completely changed. Today, we're talking about the female-fronted acts that didn't just make great music, they broke the rules, shattered the expectations, and forced an entire industry to pay attention. This is the episode about the ones who did it first, the ones who did it the loudest, and the ones who are doing it right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Every generation after the first one that we're going to talk about inherited just a little bit more wiggle room because of the women that came before them.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, all of these bands are fantastic. I don't think they just shattered expectations. They rewrote the rule book entirely in some situations.
I 100% agree. And granted, we're only going to be talking about 5 of them primarily today, but there are so many women out there in the music industry that are continuing to break some of these barriers.
Absolutely. I mean, if we had infinite time to talk about these guys, we would. But just due to time limitations, we could only include these guys.
Yeah,
These gals.
that's fair.
These gals. Let me correct myself.
Okay, so the first one that I felt like was probably the most prominent one in my mind was Fleetwood Mac, and
Ooh,
specifically
yeah.
Stevie Nicks and
Mhm.
Christine McVie.
I've been a Stevie Nicks fan, I swear, from the womb. Uh, but Fleetwood Mac was my mom's all-time favorite band. So, I mean, there's definitely some influence there.
Oh, definitely. I didn't actually know who they were probably until I became an adult, and then
Okay.
looking back at some like tracks and stuff that were their most popular songs, I was like, "Oh, that's them. Okay, I get it now."
Yeah, they are so talented.
Well, and I feel like their music kind of colors a lot of different backstories of specific events that have happened in my life. And
Mhm.
especially really recently, too, with my grandmother passing, she was a huge Stevie Nicks fan and considered herself kind of a witchy gypsy woman, too. So anytime I hear the song Gypsy, I'm immediately think of my grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah. So the band formed in 1967. They
Mhm.
started out as like a British blues band.
Right, like a five-person piece kinda thing, right?
Yeah, and it was all dudes. And eventually Christine, she joined in 1970. She
Mhm.
went completely uncredited on their 4th album as a keyboardist and pianist. And doing backup vocals for
I
them.
was just gonna say, she was singing too, like,
She
you can't
was.
forget that.
She was. And she even designed the album cover for their 4th album. And
Yeah, that's a lot of work to not get credited for. I
I
mean, that's a
know.
lot of work.
She eventually ended up marrying John McVeigh in the band,
Yep.
which is where the Mac comes from.
Mhm.
Um, Several of the band members, I want to say over half of them, struggled
Most of
with
them.
different forms of addiction,
Mhm.
alcoholism, and
A lot of
affairs.
alcohol. Yeah.
Lots of
Oh, yeah,
affairs.
yeah.
Everybody sleep with everybody. Um, but that led to like a huge falling out with some of those members, and they canceled a 26 show tour in 1973.
That's a
So,
big opportunity to miss out just because of drama.
yeah. Y'all can't work out, so we're just cutting everything off. It's a lot of money
Mhm.
lost, too.
Oh, so much. I can't imagine because a lot of these record companies pay ahead of time, so I can't imagine what they would have ended up having to pay back out of all of that, to
Mhm.
reimburse the record company for all of their losses.
Mhm. And I'm pretty sure after this point, they switched, labels and production
Mhm,
companies. And they were really struggling to figure out, like, how are we gonna change our sound and make it better so that we can kinda get back on top
mhm.
and enter into the picture Lindsay and Stevie. Um, and they had officially joined the band New Year's Eve of 1974 after they had listened to a couple of demo tapes from the band. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we
Mhm.
could totally make this better." But Lindsay was not gonna enter the band without her, so he made that the condition that he joined is that she comes along with.
Mhm.
Um, and Stevie was young at the time. I wanna say she was, like, in her late teens, early 20s when she joined the band. Um,
Yeah, that
and
is pretty darn young.
yeah, well, and you would think too, with there already being Christine in the band and now entering another woman, that there would be, like, some sort of competition to see, who had the better vocals or who was the better musician or whatever, but that was
Sure.
not the case at all. They actually ended up becoming best friends.
Yeah, from what I understand, they were really collaborative with one another. They just they didn't just work good together like you said, they were friends. They genuinely enjoyed being in each other's company anyways. And I
Mhm.
think that goes a long ways for any kind of a work setting, but
Yeah,
especially musicians. Like, you have to like each other because 'cause you're gonna be on the road forever with one another, maybe for 10, 15, 20 years. You better make
true.
sure you like
But see, it was the conflict with each other that brought about their greatest music.
That is a good point, though.
Yeah, because Rumors I mean, before that, they had a little bit of success with their self-titled album with
Mhm.
songs like Rhiannon and, probably
Landslide,
Landslide. My gosh. I
landslide.
mean, that's fair. That's totally fair. Um, so that comes out in 1975, and then throughout 1976, Christine and John get divorced.
Mhm,
Stevie and Lindsay break up. Stevie has an affair with, I forget his first name, but Fleetwood,
mhm.
while he was in the midst of his own divorce. So there's all of this
That is
like
messy.
romance, messiness, drama going on, and they had to go back into the studio because they were slotted to record this next album. I feel like Rumors is probably the best title that they could have picked for this.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's super fitting.
yeah, so it ended up becoming one of the best-selling records of all time. Like,
I
it is right up there with, like, Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston
Mhm.
and yeah, some of the
I
greats.
mean, the passion that went into it, though,
Mhm.
I mean, you can really feel that they were feeling, these ways, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, it just echoes.
Mhm. And, because of this album, they won the '78 Grammy Best Album of the Year.
Mhm,
And there were a few different, like, breakups and stuff that happened with the band from that point until the '90s, whether
mhm.
it was Lindsay going in and out of the band, or I think it was John that was going in and out of the band as well, trying
Yeah,
to do his own side projects. But Stevie and Christine were solid. They stayed with it throughout the duration of the decades. And then in
mhm,
1997 we get the Silver Springs performance,
mhm.
um,
Yep.
for the anniversary of Rumors,
That
and
was 20th anniversary, right?
20th anniversary of Rumors, 30th anniversary of the band forming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even, like, throughout all of that, Stevie was starting her own solo career on top of this as well,
Which, I
and
mean, her vocals are incredible. Like,
yeah.
there's no way she didn't, deserve something like that, considering all of the ups and downs and turmoil and instability within the band.
Well, and not just that, but stuff that she was experiencing on a personal level as well.
Yeah.
She's been very open about her struggles with addiction to cocaine,
Mhm.
and going to rehab, all while still producing music, her own albums. And she's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once
Mhm.
with Fleetwood Mac and then once as a
Yes.
solo artist, which is a pretty rare thing to occur.
Yeah, it's almost unheard of entirely, so
Mhm.
it's quite
Mhm.
an accomplishment. accomplishment.
So that's definitely some credence to how hard she has worked and how
Mhm.
influential her sound has been, because she's got such a unique voice too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but her control of her vocals with that uniqueness
Mhm.
really puts her above, so many others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been kind of interesting to see the resurgence of the popularity of this band since the pandemic, because during the pandemic, there was this trend on TikTok that was happening where people would go roller skating in the sunset. You know, didn't really
Mhm.
matter where, but a lot of them were in LA.
Yeah.
And and they were playing Dreams on a
Dreams, yep.
boombox that they were holding on their shoulder,
Mhm.
and that just kinda speaks to the timelessness of the music that she's written,
Absolutely.
and
There's so many hits though that they've had that people don't even realize that is Fleetwood Mac, like you had in as well.
yeah, yeah, specifically with, like, "Go Your Own Way,"
Oh, yeah,
or
that's still being used in movies and all kinds of different media.
mhm, The Chain. Well, and I think the timelessness is also attributed to Christine's writing abilities as well, because she was a massive force for the songwriting,
Mhm.
throughout the band's history. It wasn't just Stevie up there on stage twirling around in her shawl. Christine was like this steady, sure presence of a creative force for the band.
Absolutely, and her ability to connect, um, like, real life situations that people have had to deal with, pretty much since
Mhm,
time began and probably will until the end of time, and be able to connect the emotions attached to those
mhm.
really, really speaks to not just how deep her thought process is, but also how connected, she is to her emotions and to understanding human emotion in general.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they have gone on to inspire countless different bands, acts, you name it. Like,
Mhm.
there's gonna be, like, an 80% chance that they're gonna say that Fleetwood Mac is an inspiration for them. They've even
Right.
inspired people to write fan fiction that has since been turned into an Amazon series called Daisy Jones and the Six, and honestly, didn't know a whole lot about the band before I watched that, and then I saw the show and I was like, "Wait a second, this feels familiar."
Yeah.
And then I went on to watch, like, a documentary about the band and how it formed and everything, and I was like, "Oh, they actually got a lot of their stuff right." Interesting. Well, speaking of the '70s, another big band that kinda deviated from the glam rock, from the hippy dippy vibe, from the lighter side of things and dove into
Mm,
the much darker side of things,
yep.
Siouxsie and the
Susie and
Banshees.
the Banshees.
Yeah. This band originally formed in the mid '70s in the London post-punk scene. Um, Susie actually formed the band almost like on a dare because she was hanging out with a bunch of different guys from the Sex Pistols
Okay.
and Sid Vicious and the like. And
Mhm,
they were like, well, what if we did have kind of this darker music band with her singing instead of a dude? And
mhm.
they just wanted to see if it would work initially. She was like, "Yeah, I'm down for whatever," honestly. And then they start to hear her sing, and they're like, "Wait a second, we've got something here. We
Yeah, I mean,
definitely
such a
have something
good
here."
voice, such a crazy good voice.
My gosh. Well, okay, so I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't really listened to a lot of their music before doing research for this episode, but after
Okay.
listening to at least, their bigger hits and then some of their lesser known ones, this, I believe, is the core epitome of what, like, a witchy sounding
Mhm.
whimsigoth woman would wanna listen to, and I feel like
Oh,
she is kinda the
absolutely.
originator for a lot of these other women coming out of the woodworks with their music and having this, like, ethereal, kinda gothic, kinda not, vibe was based on Susie and her music and her voice and this band. So they
You
started.
actually, created a lot of not just like a trend, but I feel like her voice and her just natural style,
Mhm.
created a whole genre just because she exists the way she does.
Yeah. And the way that she presented herself and the way that the
Mhm.
music was performed was very, very much like kind of a "fuck you" to the patriarchy. Imma do what I want. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be who
yeah.
I am. Um, so the band started performing together in '75, and then they got Sid Vicious on drums from the Sex Pistols. They finally got signed onto a label in '77, and because she was kind of rejecting the pretty girl singer archetype, it
Mhm.
was definitely garnering a lot of attention, especially from some more indie labels and everything.
Sure,
Um,
that androgynous look was kinda frowned upon. Honestly, it
yeah.
still kinda is today in a lot of, genres, um,
Mhm.
which does feel kinda weird, like, why do they have to look a specific way? Because, what, woman singers, so they have to be blonde, they have to wear short skirts, and they have to look a certain no, no, we're all different people, so I don't understand why y'all get pigeonholed in such a strange little tiny box.
I mean, for a lot of people, it's easier to put other people in boxes just so you know how to interact with them, but this was breaking out of those boxes, breaking out of those
Oh,
labels and
destroyed the box.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kicked that shit down. So they had released a couple albums, but some of their more notable ones, definitely Juju, which was
Mhm.
released in 1981 with hits like Spellbound and Arabian Nights. And after listening to these songs, I was like, oh, this is where the witchy thing is starting to come in, is just
Mhm.
the way that her voice moves through the melodies, and then also just the different instrumentals that they're using in their music. It's very bass heavy, drum
Mhm.
heavy, and a couple of them, they've got accordions in there, they've
Yeah,
got
it was
cellos in
traditional,
there.
non-traditional in, like, the weirdest way.
Yeah, they were really truly remixing what music could sound like.
But they
Um,
did such a good job of it, like,
yeah.
I feel some people like Frank Zappa who tried to do that kinda stuff, just like, yeah, they were visionaries, but I don't feel like they had the musical talent like this.
No, this was a
But this was
stacked band,
mhm, mhm.
stacked. And then they released Peep Show in 1988.
Whoa! Favorite album.
Yeah? I've only
For yeah,
listened
for
to a
them,
couple of the
yes.
songs.
That's my favorite album of theirs.
Okay.
It's I don't know, it gives me the brain tingles.
That's what music's supposed to do.
Exactly, exactly.
And then, they released Kiss Them For Me in 1991, which
Mhm.
is far and wide probably one of their most successful albums.
It is, it is.
And it was able to get them a slot at the very first Lollapalooza in
Yeah,
Chicago.
I mean, that's crazy that these guys helped open up Lollapalooza, like, the first ever. I do find it weird that they don't get as much credit or even much light on them itself, like, outside of people
Mhm.
that already know who they are, I don't hear anybody
Yeah.
talking about them.
Yeah, I had actually seen a Reddit thread recently about that, that was like, okay, well, if you're into indie music, you're very likely already know who this band is.
Mhm.
But if you don't know, you don't know. There's like no publicity surrounding it. Nobody's really talking about their music as much anymore. They're just saying that they're influenced by them. So unless you go digging yourself, you're probably not gonna hear this band as much anymore. I feel like that's a little bit in part to the fact that the band broke up in the early 2000s and they're not making new music anymore.
But there's a lot of bands that have broken up then or even before that are
Yeah.
still, used, that are still referenced in a lot of different ways, that even the music is still remixed.
Mhm.
And these guys seem to just fall through the cracks, which is such a shame.
Yeah, unless you're, like, definitely into that subculture of, like, gothic, post-punk, alt-rock, or whatever, because like, they had done a meme theme song for Batman Returns at the
Right.
behest of Tim Burton,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
oh,
So right? I mean, to have Tim Burton personally ask your band to do
yeah.
music for him, like, whoo! That's big, that's cool.
And I think that speaks to the level of weird they are too.
Fair. I mean, they are definitely not it's not normal music. It's not something you would just come across on, like, your local rock radio station or something, but
Right.
honestly,
But
they are so worth listening to. They are very worth it.
yeah, so just like listing off a few different artists that have credited Siouxsie and the Banshees as a influence, Jeff Buckley, Jane's Addiction, Joy Division, very, very big fans. The
Mhm,
Cure, The Smiths, Tom York from Radiohead said that Siouxsie was the reason that he got into performing music. And you can definitely hear like the
mhm.
influence of in Radiohead's music, which I think is so cool.
Oh,
And honestly,
absolutely.
like every other alt rock and goth artist has pointed to Siouxsie and the Banshees as like a very pivotal influence in their
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah, I'm glad that a lot of these big names are crediting them. 'Cause I mean, they deserve all of that, but I do feel like the lack of publicity for them, even in the '90s, they had such a lack of coverage
Mhm.
overall. You'd see other punk bands, post-punk, goth type. You'd see all kinds of stuff like that on, like, MTV or VH1 if, you didn't have that, but you still didn't see a lot of them. You see a lot of people
Mhm.
influenced, by it, but you didn't see a lot of them.
Mhm.
It I don't know, it feels weird. It feels very strange.
Yeah. It's kind of like the influence of the teacher,
Mhm,
because like you'll see all of these students go on to have very successful lives and careers, and they're going to credit a certain teacher from their
mhm.
schooling to that influenced them to do this.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's kind of the position that they're in.
that's
However,
fair.
they do need that recognition as artists, as their own band, as like, look at what they can do and look at what they created, you know?
Yeah, I agree, I agree. So any of our listeners, if you haven't, please check them out. Everybody on this list, uh, not only is their music incredible and deep and fantastic, but it's been influential through, all of media really, not just any specific niche.
Mhm.
Music, movies, books, comics,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, Susie was kind of the blueprint to prove that a female voice could lead something dark and strange and
mhm.
serious at the same time. So, kind of sticking in the same general geographic area, the next act or band that I wanted to cover was the Cranberries.
Oh, you've got my heart with the Cranberries.
Yeah.
I still listen to them regularly. I've got them on most of my playlists.
Oh, okay. I've got, like, 3 or 4 of their really big hits, pretty
Mhm.
well known by heart, but doing research for this episode has definitely led me down another rabbit hole of, like, how oh, okay, let me get into it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
coming out of the late '80s into the early '90s, out of Limerick, Ireland, Dolores O'Riordan found this gangly group of teenage boys who were trying to make a
Mhm.
record, and they're looking for a female singer or just someone to be a singer for the band. And one of the band members was like, "Hey, my friend's girlfriend has a sister who has been trying to look for a band to perform for, some people to sing with." And they're like, "Sure, bring her on down." So she's cycling over there at 19 years old over to this recording studio with a broken Casio keyboard under one arm. And she's like, "I'm here. Sign me up." And so they gave her a demo tape of some of the stuff that they had been doing over the last 2 years, and she really, really liked it, and she took one of the instrumentals that they had done and
Mhm.
wrote "Linger." That was the very first song that they had written, like, together
Oh,
as a band that was on
that
their
is such a
first
good one.
EP. It is so good. That was my introduction to the Cranberries in high school. Dolores wrote Linger in, like, 1990, and 1991, they started performing at all of these, like, little individual spots around
Mhm.
Ireland and kind of going into the UK a little bit, and, they were signed with this one, like, recording studio, but they didn't really have a record label to represent them yet, and they just had, like, a family friend being their manager for a little while, so there was a little bit of
Sure.
a bidding war after their first EP comes out of, like, "Who's gonna represent these guys?" And, they finally got signed on with Island Records, and their manager that was kind of like a friend
Mhm.
started, like, hiding information from them and hiding, like, different things that were going on the business side of things, and they didn't really appreciate that, so they ended up getting a new manager, and, they were supposed to open for Nirvana in Belfast in '91, but Nirvana had canceled due to Kurt
Mhm.
Cobain's poor health at the time.
Yeah.
So then in '93, they released their album, Everybody Else Is Doing It, So Why Can't We? And, the couple of major singles from this would be Dreams, which was
Mhm.
used in I think it was an American Airlines commercial in the '90s?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't remember if it was, but it was planes for sure.
yeah, because there was
Yeah.
clouds everywhere, and they were like,
Mhm,
"Yeah, we're gonna go on vacation."
mhm.
Um, and then Linger was released later on, and that song was actually on the American Billboard Hot 100 for 6 months, 24 weeks straight, which is
And
like a
that was tough.
huge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was almost unheard of at the time. It rarely happened.
yeah, like, they originally started to have some of their music released, like, specifically those first 2 singles on college radio stations.
That's smart.
Um, not
That's
just
really
across,
smart.
like, Europe and the UK, but in the States, so they were
Mhm.
really, really popular, like, up in the Pacific Northwest because the grunge scene was starting to grow, and this was
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like the lighter side of grunge.
Right,
It was
this is
like
grunge light, grunge
grunge
for
light.
parents. Yeah,
It's
parentally approved grunge.
pink flannel.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Um, so yeah, they started to pick up a lot of momentum and steam because of that, and then Um, Linger ends up doing
Mhm.
really well on, like, classic radio stations. So building on the momentum, they go back into the studio, and then the next year they release No Need to Argue, which
Oh, that one, so
has
good, so good.
yeah. And this is where everybody starts to notice this pixie-haired little Irish girl from Limerick who has something to say.
Mhm.
Zombie being their primary single from this album, being
Favorite song out of that album too, my
it is
absolute favorite.
well, and not just the song, but the music video for it too was super,
Mhm.
super impactful. And it started conversations. And I think that's what the goal was to start
Yeah.
people to start talking about what was going on in Ireland and had been going on for the last
Mhm.
80 years at that point.
Right, right. Because I mean, everything was being covered up, not really covered up, but, like, just like a sweep under the rug kinda thing, like, "We don't talk about that. Shush, 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 shush."
Yeah, it wasn't getting international, you
Mhm.
know, news
It
like
was
it
all
should
just
have been.
local only.
Yeah, yeah. So she writes this very angry political anthem, and everybody starts to notice and pay attention to what's been going on in Northern Ireland.
And the
And
title for it was perfect too then, I mean, think about it, like,
yeah,
are you gonna wake up or are you gonna be a zombie is essentially the message.
yeah, basically. And one of the other lines is like, you're not going to care about it unless it's happening to you. Like,
Right.
it's, somebody else's child that's dying. So, are you only going to care unless it's happening to you? And I think that's, like, a very heated message of, like,
Mhm.
you need to care regardless if it's happening in your country or not.
Yeah, because of yeah, exactly, and carrying on the feeling of, it's gonna end up in your backyard, kind of a feel, with some of those
Mhm.
lyrics too. It it really spoke volumes.
Well, and like the Cranberries were a very notable band that was doing this,
Mhm.
especially in the 90s, but they weren't the only ones.
Right.
Artists like Sinead
You
O'Connor
okay.
and Annie
Yeah.
Lennox were talking about this as well. And then skipping forward, 20, 30 years, Hozier has been
Mhm.
incredibly vocal about some international political conflicts that have been happening in the last 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of speaks to just like the Irish culture in general of, hey, we're like a global society and we need to act like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so the Cranberries definitely um were causing a lot of conversations to happen.
Mhm.
Their other albums didn't do quite as well as No Need to Argue,
Mhm.
especially because the lyrics were becoming more and more politically activated,
Charged.
I
Yeah.
guess, to the point that they were including the sounds of real gunshots in their songs. Um,
Which hold on, I do wanna say something about that.
okay.
Um, I don't understand why it was controversial for them to do that, but it is not controversial for a lot of hip hop to use the same kind of mechanic
Yeah, I think
with the gunshots.
I think that had more to do with, the radio stations that were playing their music.
Okay.
Um,
Um, well, we'll even look at Metallica.
yeah,
You know, they have gunshots in some of their songs, and that particular song that I'm thinking of, one, was not exactly looked at as a bad thing. It was controversial because of the message, but the use of gunshots in the background, at the beginning of that track, nobody talked about that as a bad thing. I almost feel like because it's a female-fronted band, that was a lot of the controversy right there. Whereas
yeah.
male-fronted bands or male artists don't seem to get any heat at all from this use of the same sound.
I I would definitely agree with that. I would almost take it a step further and be like, violence is almost expected out of men, whereas with women, we're expected to be soft, demure, quiet, not necessarily have these very strongly held opinions about things that are happening.
And that's probably why that controversy got started in the first place, which
Yeah.
is sad if you think about it. Even surface level think about it, it's sad because we're all human beings, right? So
Mhm.
why does one person's opinions mean more than the other? Just because of how you were born? Uh,
How you present or yeah,
I just
it's
I just I personally can't wrap my head around that logic. Like what does, you know, my genes, what I look like have anything to do with my thoughts and opinions? It
Mhm.
shouldn't for anybody.
Right. I agree. I agree. Um, so yeah, they definitely caused a lot of controversy with a couple of their albums, and then they went on hiatus from 2003 to 2009. And unfortunately, Dolores did pass away in 2018. So they released their final album in the end in
Mhm.
2019. And Dolores is probably most remembered for her Irish lilt and the yodeling that she
Mhm.
included in her music.
Oh, and that
Um,
was so cool. I gotta be honest, I've tried so many times and I cannot figure it out.
it's hard. It's a
Yeah.
really hard thing to do. She
Mhm.
said that she had learned how to yodel from her dad, which I think is just so
Oh,
wholesome.
that really
Um,
is though.
yeah, yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and, her voice was likened to the likes of Sinead O'Connor, another
Yeah.
famous Irish singer, and
Yeah.
also going back to Siouxsie and the Banshees.
Mhm. Mhm. I think she got some inspiration from them too, I believe. Had
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
Absolutely. With some of their styles, there had to have been some influence.
yeah, 100%. Absolutely. All right, I think we're gonna take a quick break here to have a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. All right, quick break. This episode is brought to you by W Energy.
Dubby, the energy drink that did not exist when any of the women that we were talking about today were getting their start. And honestly, that feels like a tragedy.
Truly. Dovey is a sugar free energy drink mix, clean focus, no crash, tons of flavors. It's the kind of thing you grab when you have a lot of research to get through and not enough hours in the day.
Which describes every episode that we make.
Every single one. I've been
Mhm.
really into the tiger's blood
Yeah, that is a good one. I mean, she did mention that one completely unprompted, by the
because it's good. Go try it. Head to WEnergy.com and use code CGR26 at the checkout for a 10% discount.
Support the show, drink your little drink. Let's learn about some women who changed the music industry.
Perfect summary. Us.
Yeah.
All right. And we're back.
Acting a fool.
Yas, queen.
Totally.
Oh god. Um so yeah. Kind of deviating from the grunge and rock scene a little bit to a more modern example of a woman who has been breaking down barriers probably since birth, but
Since birth. I mean, yeah, fair, fair.
she is a very loud and proud woman that I personally admire very much, and this woman is Miss Halsey. The industry kind of tried to force her to pick a lane and
Mhm,
stay within that, and she refuses, just flat out
mhm.
refuses.
Yep, yep,
Um,
she's like, "I'm going to do the music that I wanna do, and y'all can just sit and spin, because 'cause Imma do it."
Either like it or you don't. You can take it or
Mhm.
not. It doesn't matter, but
Exactly.
I'm gonna create what I want to create.
And
Um,
honestly, I have a lot of respect for that because that's so hard to do in an industry that is driven by numbers and money and so much pressure on the artists to just
yes.
follow whatever trends that label wants them to follow.
Yes.
It's tough.
Um,
It's tough to deviate from that.
well, and that's a problem that she's run into time and time again. And she's
Mhm.
honestly not the only one. She's just like being the loudest about it at certain points in time.
I mean, she's done a really good job about pushing back on that and being vocal about
Yes.
it too.
Yes. Um, and so she's a biracial, bisexual artist.
Mhm.
And I believe she's
Non-binary, yeah.
non-binary. She prefers she, they
Mhm.
pronouns. She's really refused to let anybody define her identity or her sound. And she first got her start on Tumblr and
Mhm.
SoundCloud back in the early
Mhm.
2010s when it was a mess.
Oh, I remember that. I still have a Tumblr. Um,
Wow.
so, there's a blacksmithing community that I'm a part of on there.
Oh, okay.
You can't before TikTok, that was about the only place, to
Mhm.
have a decent sized community in such a niche thing.
Sure.
I'm a lot more on the TikTok side now, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair, that's fair. I wasn't necessarily on Tumblr during those days. I had heard about it, I had friends that were on it. I definitely probably would have fit the aesthetic, and I very, very much loved, like, Halsey's look and her vibe. I found most of her stuff through YouTube,
Okay,
back then.
sure.
Because of Tumblr and SoundCloud, Halsey built up this really great fan base of people who
Mhm.
were just as mentally unwell as she is. Because she's like the bi polar bear because she's like biracial, bisexual, and bipolar.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and I love that I love that she's been so open and honest about that too.
Honestly, yeah, there's been a couple of her songs that it's like, you know what, though? I can really connect to a lot of the sentiments that she's singing about
Yeah.
and understanding that she just doesn't want everybody to feel alone in their struggles. And like, that's a big message I feel like that she pushes. I for
Mhm.
one can really appreciate, what she's doing.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and, like, some of her songwriting, she has equated to just writing in her journal and making
Mhm.
it rhyme, which feels very real and very truthful to how the music comes across when you listen to it.
Yeah, it's
Um
very raw, very, very deep.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of her earlier music was depicting her relationship struggles, but also struggles with her identity around those relationships. And, as time went on, it became more and more apparent that she was having these identity struggles. So, like, for Badlands, when that came out in 2015, she released a series of music videos where she was wearing this very signature blue bob
Mhm,
wig. And she was taking on this, like, other identity, and she wanted Halsey to be almost like a character she would
mhm.
play, her alter ego. Then, for her next album, Hopeless Fountain Kingdom, which I think came out in 2016 or 17, I'm pretty sure 2016,
16, I think.
um, she had shaved her head. She wasn't wearing the wigs anymore, and she was just going with the buzz cut, and she loved it, and I feel like that androgynous look,
Mhm.
there were others in previous, throughout history who had kinda opened that door for her to be able to do that. This definitely like, there's a couple songs on there that she duetted with a woman from I think it was, like, Fifth Harmony, who they were, having this boxing match with each other, and the song was about a queer relationship that Halsey had been through, and that definitely garnered a lot more attention and praise from the queer community as, like, "Hey, we're getting more exposure, more positive exposure."
Mhm.
And she's detailing, a very common lesbian experience of having your first heartbreak or having your first, like, real combative, toxic, queer relationship because you don't know what you're doing when you start out. Um, so I think that definitely gave her a lot more credence, with that demographic.
Sure.
Well, then she gets together with G-Eazy, um, and that turns out to be probably one of the most toxic, impactful relationships that she writes about. Because like, Badlands became popular with the single "Colors,"
Mhm.
and that was about Matty Healy from the 1975.
Oh, I did not realize that's who that's about.
Yep. She dated him for about a year.
Okay, okay.
Huh?
Well,
And
that gives a
then
whole new light to that song then.
the web grows within Hollywood. So Matty Healy dated Halsey for a little while, like 2013, 2014 era. And then after that, he started to see Taylor Swift on the side. And
Oh.
that was kind of an on and off relationship for over a decade.
Wow, alright, I mean, you're spilling all the tea.
Yep. Well, and between Badlands, Hopeless Fountain Kingdom, and Manic, like in that like 5, 6 year span,
Mhm.
Halsey had ended up dating Machine Gun Kelly for a little while. And
Oh.
then yeah,
Wow, okay.
uh-huh. And then she dated G-Eazy, and that was a very tumultuous relationship. And then she wrote the single Without Me about him. Um,
Oh, that's who that's
claiming that
about.
a lot of his success was due to her, putting him
Mhm,
up on this pedestal and being like getting him connected in,
mhm.
the music industry. Um, she also released another single, Nightmare, that
It's another
took
good one.
the music video took influence from every angry female artist you could possibly imagine.
Mhm, mhm.
And it was basically about burning down the patriarchy. And it's one of my favorites, truly. And then this was like the Manic was released during lockdown, during the pandemic. Oh, because of the rise of TikTok during the pandemic, and then Without Me having been a single before the album comes out and Nightmare coming out. So yeah. Um so with the rise of TikTok during the lockdown that was
Mhm.
happening, Manic and Ariana Grande's album that came out that year were actually competing for the number 1 pop album on Billboard charts.
Okay, okay.
And Halsey didn't really see it as like a competition. She wrote the music because she's an artist and that's all she wants to do.
Right.
But because the record label was really enjoying those numbers, they were really, really pushing for her to do something like that again,
Yep.
which we all know is a pretty impossible thing for an artist to do, back to back to back to back.
It's
Um,
so tough. I mean, unless you have a lot of stuff already loaded up that you've been working on continuously and you're doing like slow releases of those big hits over, this album will get these sets, this albums will get these, outside of something like that that's already done, it really doesn't.
mhm, mhm, absolutely. So, it was after this and after her breakup with G-Eazy that she, was in a relationship with a guy who was a producer for, the Chainsmokers.
Okay.
Because back in 2016, she was featured on the track "Closer" with the Chainsmokers, and
Mhm.
it was, like, probably one of the biggest hits that year. It was, like, the summer
Was
song of 2016.
Yeah, it was pretty big. Honestly, I was a fan of the Chainsmokers, and that really was my introduction to Halsey was that song.
It was for a lot of people, honestly, which, more power to her because she has been collaborating with,
Mhm.
tons of different artists over the years,
Oh,
and
and I
she
feel like they've benefited from that more than she has because she has that
yeah.
presence that she can just bring into almost any situation she comes into.
Yeah, pretty much. She's collabed with almost every person that she's dated that's, like, musically artistic. So she did a song with G-Eazy, she did a song with MGK, she did a song with Yungblud. Um,
I
on her
like that
Manic
one too, honestly.
album, she did a song with Alanis Morissette because that's also another female powerhouse that was an
Mhm,
inspiration to her.
mhm,
And then after she gets with this guy who is, Olive Aiden, I think is his name. She gets pregnant. They get engaged and she gets pregnant with her child,
mhm,
and she creates this concept album around the question of identity within motherhood as opposed to your identity as a person
mhm,
and dealing with the changes that your body goes through while you're pregnant and preparing yourself for motherhood. And she was working with, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross from Nine Inch Nails on this
mhm.
album, and you could definitely hear their influence in a couple of their songs.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. The heaviness, honestly, change from some of the more, lighter pop beats.
for sure. Like, one that kinda sticks out in my mind is, Lilith,
Yeah. Mhm,
and
mhm, mhm,
they
mhm.
actually did a remix of that and released it with the most, recent Diablo video game that came out. 'Cause turns out Halsey's a huge gamer herself. And then
You
they
know, that
created
track though.
yeah, it totally tracks.
I'm just with some of the references she makes in her lyrics,
Mhm.
with some of the beats, and, some of her music sounds like it's been inspired by games she's played, if I'm
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
It has like that video game track kind of esque feel sometimes. Not all of them, not nearly all of them, but every once in a while
right.
there's a few.
Absolutely. And then she, like, created this concept album and then wrote and directed a movie to go with it.
I didn't know she wrote and directed it.
Uh-huh, and, as well as
Oh.
starring in it. Um, and so this album titled "If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power,"
Mhm,
which is also the title track, but also one of the singles that was released from it was, "I Am Not a Woman, I'm a God," dealing with all of these complex and conflicting emotions around motherhood.
mhm.
And then towards the end of it, she dedicates the movie to her son that she had, um, in July of that year. And, um,
He's either a Cancer or a Leo baby.
he's a Cancer. He was born the
Cancer.
day before my birthday.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of cool because she's like very close to my age. She's just a
Mhm.
couple months younger than me. And then she had her son like 3, 6, not 3, 6, 4 months
See.
after I had my daughter. And so we were kind of experiencing a lot of these same things at the same time. And then I was listening to her album, like, on repeat for a while, especially once the movie came out, because 'cause I've been a Halsey fan for forever,
Mhm.
and it helped me as a fan to feel so seen, especially
Sure.
knowing that we were going through some of these experiences at the same time, and that we experienced womanhood and motherhood in very, very similar ways.
Yeah, and that can be different things for sure.
Yeah.
Even just, like, conversations that I've had with my mom before she had passed too, she had talked a lot about, it was way different to be a woman than it was to be a mom, like, it was separate,
Mhm.
so for I mean, it was part of each other, but it was also separate.
Yes.
Being in
Yes.
my position, Mr. Beardy Face here, um, I I don't know if I will ever be able to connect with that fully, but I can appreciate that it is a struggle, that duality, and being like a man and a dad, I can tell you is definitely a very different experience as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. And I think she really speaks to that duality with a lot of her more recent stuff too. She released another album. I want to say she started releasing singles in like late 2024 for her album The Great Impersonator. And
mm,
I was lucky enough to go see a concert of hers last year for this tour for The Great Impersonator.
that's
And
I'm jealous.
oh, it was a fantastic show, and this was the first tour that she had really done since Manic, which was 5 years prior.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of her music, I truly think this is her most vulnerable album that she's written yet, has to deal with the breakup from her baby daddy
Mhm.
and getting diagnosed both with lupus and a form of chronic leukemia and nearly dying because they couldn't figure out what was going on with her at first, especially after she gave birth because all of these symptoms started to crop up and like take their toll on her.
Mhm.
And then finding new love in um, Avon Yogia, also accepting and embracing the identity of being both a mother and a woman in modern society. And, she
Neither of which are
has
easy. Neither of which are easy.
no, especially being a woman that not only is biracial, but belongs to so many different communities
Mhm.
and
Well, yeah, because
speaking up on those issues.
I can see, attacks that could come in from so many more different angles than a lot of people would normally deal with anyways. Um,
Mhm,
even just being in one of those groups can be very difficult, but
mhm,
being in so many, yeah, that's gotta be tough, and then going through all of those health as a cancer survivor myself, I know how hard that is,
mhm,
but doing it as a parent, oh, that's
mhm,
a whole other level.
mhm.
I mean,
So
wow.
from my knowledge, she had been diagnosed with endometriosis pretty early on in her career. Has been quoted to like she had a miscarriage on stage when she was like 20.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's horrible.
Yeah. And so
Mm,
after that, she started to freeze her eggs and really, really take care of herself because she wanted motherhood so, so, so badly.
sure.
And she decided to have her son, when she did and went through that whole in vitro process.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a funny thing that happens with women when they get pregnant is because of the volume of blood that is increased, as well as hormones and other things that are going on in the body while you're pregnant, it could actually alleviate a lot of the symptoms of chronic illnesses.
Oh,
And so it was after she gave birth, and there's that massive drop of blood and hormones and all sorts of other
Mhm.
fluids that your body's holding is when these symptoms reared their ugly head and actually started to almost kill her, truly.
I
She
mean,
did almost die.
I'm glad she survived. I can't imagine how difficult that was, but I'm glad she survived.
Yeah, me too, and actually a lyric in one of her songs, she did a cover of "Lucky" by Britney Spears, and she changed one of the lines of it to, "I shaved my head 4 times because I wanted to, and then I shaved it one more time because I got sick." And she goes on to say, everybody tells her she's so lucky to have this career and everything, but she's like, "No, in reality, I'm so lucky to be alive. I'm so lucky to
Mhm,
still be here with my kid and still get to be a mother to him."
mhm,
Um, and so another one of the ways that she has kind of been breaking down barriers and doors, like we kind of touched on, was speaking out against record labels trying to pigeonhole her into a certain lane or genre
mhm.
of music. And we all know that she really writes whatever she wants, and it
Right.
can't really be classified as pop or rock or whatever. She was going to release a single called So Good. It was supposed to be kind of like post manic, but pre If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power.
Mhm.
And it was written about her baby daddy and when they met on the set of the music video for Closer with the
Okay,
Chainsmokers.
okay.
And Capitol Records wanted her to create this viral TikTok moment in order to promote the song, the single. And she's like, "I'm not going to dance for you, especially because you told me to."
Mhm.
So she went on a TikTok to talk about it and say, "This is what's happening with the record label right now. And I don't think it's right. And I don't want to do this." And so all of these other artists start speaking up, some of them that were signed to Capitol Records, and were
Mhm.
saying, like, "Hey, this is not a unique case. This is not uncommon. So we want to speak out about it." And so she's been continuously breaking down these barriers for people to have their own voice and
Yeah,
speak out against the music industry's treatment of artists.
absolutely. And I'm glad that she's, able to lead the charge like that, and then it's having so many people, coming out and validate that, "Hey, I'm going through this too, and I'm also going through this." I mean, that's really gotta feel like some good vindication,
Yeah.
and also how freeing would that be to get everybody under these same records also coming out with their true and unique stories and showing how common this problem is.
Mhm.
And I know it's probably just a marketing decision,
Mhm.
and the labels probably don't think much of it other than it's just for marketing, whatever. Um, but a lot of business people don't take into consideration is to an artist being true and pure to who they are artistically.
Mhm.
Not only is that, part of who they are, that is them,
Yeah.
but also doing something fake like that is like lying about your art.
Yeah.
It's a fake you, it's fake art, it's fake everything, and that just feels wrong.
Yeah. And the other thing about it too is that, you know, when it comes to like being owned in a sense like
Mhm,
that,
mhm.
she
Dance to
did
me, puppy.
Lucky because, Britney Spears was so influential to her, and honestly me too, growing up as a 90s kid, and then
Yeah.
to find out about her conservatorship and what she was and wasn't allowed to do, say, act, whatever. And people like to make fun of 2007 Britney, but looking back on it, yeah, I would go crazy too. And
Well,
she's
yeah,
not the
like
only
she
one
was
who's been through that.
right, like being forced to do performances you don't wanna do, or songs that you don't agree with,
Mhm.
or even wardrobe choices that are being
Mhm.
made for you that you don't wanna show that much of your body off, and they're like,
Mhm.
"Well, too bad, according to this piece of paper, you have to do what I say."
Yep.
But it's not actually for their benefit, it's for the benefit of the person really making money off of them,
Yeah.
and to see that level of exploitation is horrible. I can't imagine the emotional toll that it takes on your brain, the physical toll that it takes on your body, and then feeling so cut off and alone at the same time,
Mhm.
that's that's gotta be
Mhm.
rough, you know, it's no wonder that Britney broke down, it's no wonder so many other people have dived out of the music industry, you know, after that, it
Yeah.
can be easy to live through.
Yeah. Well, and I remember in Halsey's music video for You Should Be Sad, there's several different dance scenes that she does in different costumes that are supposed to be like an homage to the female musicians that inspired her
Mhm,
today. Britney's for sure one of them. Christina Aguilera was one. Shania
mhm,
Twain was another big one.
yep,
And I don't think she included it in the music video, but I know that she's talked about Whitney Houston as a big influence too, especially as a biracial African American young woman.
mhm.
And Whitney Houston herself has broken down a lot of barriers as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's another big artist that has had to break through a lot of stereotypes and work around a lot of, um, just bigoted or misogynistic people, and I
Mhm.
can't imagine that her career was very easy either. I mean, look at some of, her past as well with certain
Mhm.
relationships and things that were going on there.
Mhm.
It's crazy to see that so many of these, women, artists are they all have, like, a few very common things, that happen to just about all of them,
Yep.
and being abused or used in some form like that seems to be a very common thread,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean, that I feel like as a society, we need to step back and be like, "Okay, this has got to stop. What things do we need to start doing so that this never happens again?"
Yeah. Yeah. Um And that kind of reminds me of another artist that is gonna be like an honorable mention that we're gonna do at the end, but like the industry's treatment of Billie Eilish in general is kinda showcasing how we're trying to change things. And not
Yeah.
just her, but like Chapel Roan speaking out
Oh, yep,
against
yep.
the paparazzi and whatnot too. But
And
one last band, and
yes, yes, one
then
last
we'll get
band.
to the honorable mentions. This one I kinda came across in 2023, so it was a little bit after, but
Mhm.
Spiritbox
Spirit
formed
Box.
in 2017. You know, it could easily be said that Courtney LaPlante is doing what Siouxsie did 50 years ago, which is rewriting what is
Mhm,
possible for music.
mhm.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, it's basically like a reincarnation of Susie and the Banshees,
a little bit.
but in, like, a modern twist.
Yeah, for sure. She started the band with her husband in 2017. They both came from a different band called I Wrestled a Bear Once.
Best band name ever. Oh my I wrestled a bear once. Yes.
I never heard of it before, but it sounded pretty cool. They started releasing their music independently, and then they were given a grant by the Canadian government to tour a little bit around the Vancouver area to
Mhm,
promote their new band, Spiritbox. Um, They switched managers around a little bit, and then the manager was like, "You really need to start posting stuff online instead of touring because it's gonna save you a lot of money, and it'll
mhm,
probably get you a bigger fan base so that when you do go tour and perform that you'll have a bigger audience."
mhm,
So, that's what they started doing. They managed to survive through the pandemic, and they were in the studio a lot. From what I recall, they actually recorded a lot of their stuff at a studio at, Joshua Tree National Park.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it's
It's beautiful.
isolated enough for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I was gonna say it's a beautiful area, and there's, like, nothing other than just wilderness for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And they released their initial, like, full-length album, Eternal Blue, in 2021.
Yep, fairly
Um,
recent, fairly recent.
yeah, fairly recently. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hard Rock Albums charts.
That almost
Um,
never happens, like, period, for any
especially
band. Yeah,
yeah,
especially a
for an
woman vocal lead.
a female-fronted band in metal, but they're also independent too.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah. They don't
Yeah.
have, a big label pushing any of their stuff.
Right. And, so Holy Roller, which was their first single from that album, they
Oh,
released
that was such
in
a
2020.
mhm.
And it was, like, such a shock online to, like, the metal community in general, not only that it
Yeah.
was a female-fronted band, but the fact that she could scream the way that a lot of these metalcore bands are expected to sound too.
Yeah, that blew me away. Like, I
Yeah.
heard them first and I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And then I saw a video and I was like, "No way. I can't even get that deep. What?"
Yeah,
I
and
was
her
so impressed.
ability to transition from the scream into melodic singing,
Yeah,
um,
that's
there
so difficult.
is there's a YouTuber called The Charismatic Voice who does vocal analysis of some hit songs and whatever. And I remember she did this one episode with crap, I can't remember his name, the lead singer of Lorna Shore.
Oh,
Yeah, goofy little guy.
yeah.
Freaking hilarious. He's a huge Sleep Token fan.
Oh,
But they
okay.
did this episode where they put a camera down his throat and then they had him do like the death metal screaming and then
Oh,
transition into the melodic singing.
mhm,
And looking at that from like a physiological perspective is such a difficult thing to do that when you hear singers, especially like Courtney LaPlante do it, or even nowadays getting into it, Poppy a little bit,
a little bit.
and there's a few other, like,
Baby
female-fronted
metal.
metalcore bands, baby
Baby
metal.
metal.
Yeah,
Oh, I love those guys.
the
Sorry.
talent that it takes to do
Mhm,
this kind of work and to make this kind of art and all the hard work that goes into it without destroying your vocal cords, because that's been an issue in the past with a lot of these
mhm.
metal bands is that they didn't properly take care of their vocal cords long enough
Yeah, and
to
they
where they
shredded.
couldn't sing anymore.
Mhm,
So for Courtney LaFlante to be doing this and to be doing it so well is like huge, huge factor to
mhm,
credence to her. And not only that, but like they got some accolades from a few different like metal magazines and like alternative press, Kerrang, stuff like
mhm.
that for this album, Eternal Blue. And then they release Circle With Me and Secret Garden, and people are
Oh, that's
just
a good one too.
blown away at the amount of talent that she has.
Yeah,
And
for good reason. I mean, any one of the things she does with her vocals are difficult to do, and she
yeah,
can combine them, like, not just in the same song, but, like, back to back.
yep, yep.
That's I mean, you don't see that anywhere. You just don't.
No, you really don't. Um, and so from this album, they started going on tour and amassing, audiences that are in the tens of thousands just to
Mhm.
see this female fronted band performing and showing the metal community what female empowerment really looks like.
Honestly, that's the right community to do that with too, though, 'cause I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many different concerts, how many different, festivals, and all kinds of stuff I've been to where that is an important issue regardless of gender, regardless of orientation, that does seem to be, "Hey, there needs to be more of this." Just
Mhm.
universal, everyone I've talked to wants to see this and
Yeah.
wants to that support is there, it exists. So to see her taking advantage of that and pushing the boundaries and bringing in more people outside of the metal community too, by the way,
Yeah.
it's incredible to see that, and I, for one, am not just thankful for it, but hope that that continues a trend that just builds more and more artists, with those same kind of motivations coming into the space.
I agree, and I really, really hope, because like there's been discourse online, like especially on Reddit, about how Spiritbox isn't really metal because of their sound. And because, she does the melodic singing, it's not classified as heavy metal. It's like alt metal or metalcore, but it's like, does it really
That's
matter?
splitting hairs, that's so
Yeah.
splitting and I don't think it matters, and to really address that, if you look at some of the first metal bands,
Mhm.
she sounds more like a lot of the first metal era bands than the current ones. So it's
Mhm.
almost like she's looping back to the inspiration for that genre in the first place.
Yeah.
So I don't see where there is an issue there, period. I feel like that's got to be arguments of people that just want to argue for the sake of feeling like they're correct on something.
But that definitely tells you what you need to know about, like, the metal community and who they think it belongs to. So for
That's
her to
fair.
be breaking down these doors and saying, "No,
Mhm.
I belong here too. I am just as credible, just as valid to be
Oh,
in this
yeah.
space as anybody else,"
I
is
mean, think
yeah.
about it. A lot of these fans don't even have a tenth of the abilities as she does.
Mhm.
How much you wanna bet some of those people are so jealous that she can scream better than they can, and so they're just sitting on there and angry typing on Reddit, being a keyboard warrior because they're so pissed off that this female singer, this woman, is so much better at those screams. I don't think it matters,
Right.
personally. I why does it matter? That's the real question. Why does that even matter, period?
Exactly. Exactly.
Talent is talent. People that work hard to develop these skills and showcase them, regardless of who they are, what they look like. I mean, let's recognize skill at least. Can the whole community at
Absolutely.
least do that and recognize how skillful this is? How difficult
Absolutely.
it is to do this sustainably?
Yeah, yeah. And, um, so kinda going through the line from, like, Fleetwood to Siouxsie to the Cranberries to Halsey to Spiritbox, it's like there's this thread that kinda
Mhm,
connects all of them of, like,
mhm.
we're loud and we're proud and we're gonna say that we belong here because we do.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with that, and there's also, I would say, on the other side, the flip side, there's also this commonality of, these men that run, these records or labels or recording studios, uh, managers even pushing for this, ideal woman kind of thing within a genre
Mhm,
that they believe men want to see,
mhm.
without and they don't even take into consideration the actual artist and what their goals are, what their
Yeah.
direction is. They're just trying to push what their ideal woman in this genre,
Mhm.
and to see them fight back the way they do, that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, I will buy tickets to that show every day. That is gorgeous. I love seeing.
Yes. 100%. And just to mention a couple of others, because I know, like, talking about Spiritbox 100% reminded me of Evanescence, especially when they
Oh,
were starting out.
yes,
And
love
Amy
Evanescence.
Lee
Oh my
being
gosh.
not just a woman in rock music, but a soprano in rock
Mhm.
music, and how
That's
rare
so
that
tough.
is.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, we could go back to the '80s and talk about, the Wilson sisters from Heart.
Mhm,
She's an
mhm,
alto, but she has this powerhouse voice that
mhm.
just really, really resonates. And then,
Oh, just
20,
thinking
15
about it,
years.
I'm getting goosebumps, like,
Yeah,
it's incredible. Her vocals just, I mean, it really just gets deep down in.
yeah. And then you go to Amy Lee, and it's like,
Mhm,
"What? Look at this range."
mhm.
Um, and going back even further than the Wilson sisters, you gotta look at Debbie Harry and all of
Oh, yeah,
those
yeah, yes,
boundaries that
yes,
she was
yes.
breaking too. Another one from the '80s, Joan Jett
Joan
and the
Jett and the
Heartbreakers.
Heartbreakers. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. I mean, Pat
and
Benatar in that same vein too.
for sure, for sure. And then, I think I had mentioned Billie Eilish a little bit before too, especially with her trying to dress androgynously, and
Yeah.
she kinda
She
created this new genre of pop music when
She
she
really
came
did,
out.
and
Yeah.
her whole style, like the over baggy, like, I mean, baggy was kind of a big thing in the '90s, but she
Mhm.
accentuated it even more so,
Mhm.
and I get that she was doing that as a way to kinda hide her figure so that it was more about the music and not about how she looks,
Yeah.
um which is awesome. I love that that was, an inspiration for her because I do think it should be more about the music than about how the art looks. And I get, like, you wanna have the stage show, like, costuming to fit the style of music or fit the vibe of the tour.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't be about showing off, like, the feminine body or showing off, the male body. It should be, just fitting the vibe of the album.
Yeah, let the costume be art as well.
Exactly, exactly, and she does a really good job of that. I think she's even inspired a whole new style that I've seen quite a few people kinda dive into, in more of that pop, style,
Yeah.
or genre. If I could pull it off, I'd definitely wear it. Like, it's kinda cool. I like the style. I really do.
Yeah, and one last real quick mention, because like you had talked about alt black
All
era,
back era, yeah. They are such a good heavy, heavy band.
yeah.
Their song, "I'm Normally Like This," I mean, almost daily I'm listening to that song. I gotta give them props. I even, like, looked to see if they were touring, in the US, and last I looked, they were not. I was really disappointed in that because I would
Mm,
love to see these guys live. They are so, so talented, and they fight against that patriarchal, you have to dress a certain way because 'cause you're feminine, you have to sound a certain way, and you have to sing about specific things, and they push so hard against all of those stereotypes, and they
mhm.
do it in such an artistic and effective way. I'm here for that. All day,
Y
I'm here for that.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and one last well, 2 couple real quick mentions. One of my favorite rock
Mhm.
bands is Halestorm.
Hailstorm's really good.
Lizzie Hale is
Yep.
such a powerhouse,
Mhm.
especially with her voice, but an kinda up and coming artist that doesn't really have a platform yet, but enough of one to get invited on stage with the band that she was covering at Sonic Temple Festival. She goes by Mafra on
Mafra.
YouTube, and she did a cover of "Circle with Me" by Spiritbox. It got a lot of
Mhm.
attention on TikTok and YouTube, and then she did a cover of "Doomed" by Bring Me the Horizon, and the band had caught wind of this cover, loved
Mhm.
it, and invited her on stage when they were performing that song at Sonic Temple Festival, and for some artist who has no record label whatsoever, she's just
Mhm.
independently producing this stuff with her husband. That is a
Mhm.
huge, huge, huge deal.
It
So I'm
really is. I mean, she doesn't even have, like, a published album out yet, does
nope,
she?
nope,
Yeah, it's
she's got stuff on Apple Music and Spotify,
right,
but
right.
it's all independent right now. Um,
Yeah, that's enormous. You
yeah,
don't really see that. Not with any artists or any bands. It's almost unheard of.
yeah. So,
Definitely give them a
looking
check.
forward to seeing what she's gonna be coming out with, and we can never forget to mention Hayley Williams and all of
Oh,
the
yeah,
boundaries that she broke for punk and rock music.
for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, let us know in the comments some of your favorite female fronted acts or female solo artists, regardless of genre, and we'll see if we can do a deep dive on one of these one day.
Yeah, let us know who your favorites are. We'd love to cover them.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.